Hello, learners. I am Parikshit, and welcome to another very exciting session on Unacademy CATalyst. In today's session, we are going to talk about the best LRDI strategy, which toppers have followed year after year to score 99 plus percentile in the LRDI section of the CAT. With CAT 2021 just a few days away from today, it is essential that you have the right strategy in place and you apply the right strategy so as to maximize your probability of getting a very high score in this particular section of the CAT. Let's get started. Some wonderful tips and tricks to have you, and these are must have tricks for the 28th of November, the D Day, where you're writing the CAT. Let's get started. So this is me, Parikshit Saikia, your educator on Unacademy with the highest live class ratings thanks to my learners. New batches are starting on Unacademy in the next few days. So we have batches for CAT and OMAT 2022. If you wish to enroll for any of these batches, remember to use the code Parikshit Live, which is there on your screen. If you use the code Parikshit Live, you will get maximum discounts while subscribing, and B, you will also get free mentorship from my side. Yeah, you heard it correct. Free mentorship, and that's available only for those who access Unacademy Plus and join Unacademy Plus using the code Parikshit Live. Let's get started with today's session. Okay, the best LRDI strategy to get 99 plus, right? That's the topic. LRDI strategy, okay, to have and for 99 plus percentile. Now remember the first thing when you go and write the paper on the day of the exam, right? The moment the LRDI section appears, I would say the first and the foremost most important point is to select the right sets. I don't think there is anything more important than this. If you select the wrong set, no matter how good are you at LRDI, you might not end up with a very good score. Correct? How do you select the right sets is the next question for us. On your screen, by default, question number 1 will appear for LRDI, right? And you will see on the top right of your screen, you will see the question number, something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Correct? You must have appeared for the mock, so you know this better, right? So what do you have? Then you'll have 5, 6, 7, dot, 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 and then you'll have 9, dot, dot, dot. Let's have this. What happens is on your screen, at least have a glance at the set which is there by default, the first set. Just glance and identify the topic area. Could be a Venn diagram set, could be a Venn diagram set. Fine. Next, click on question number 5. Assuming that 1 to 4 is for set 1, then click on question number 5. If you click on question number 5, you will get set number 2. Just have a glance. Just identify the topic from which set number 2 has come. Similarly, click on question number 9 so that you are able to identify set 3. In this way, in the first 90 seconds, of the exam, your target is to identify the topics from where the questions have come. So let's say set 1, set 2, and up till set 5. You have got 5 sets. You have got 5 sets. Correct? In the first 90 seconds to 2 minutes, identify out of these 5 sets which are the 2 sets that you are gonna attempt at the start. So I think the 90 seconds are the most crucial part of the examination. You need to, at the end of 90 seconds to 120 seconds, 2 minutes, decide the sets which you will attempt. Decide 2 sets which you will attempt. Which you will attempt. I think this is very important. Now, next question will be, how do I decide these 2 sets? How do I decide these 2 sets? It could be and it must be based on familiarity. If you have solved a lot of sets, when you are looking at those sets, something or the other will definitely look familiar to you. As an example, you could come up with, let's say, a line diagram, something like this. There is a graph and they are telling you percentage increase or percentage decrease with respect to the previous year. These are very common, standard, traditional DI sets which you must have done in your classes or must have done from while solving questions from the book. Now, this is the set you would want to identify and you would want to attempt first. Very important that the first two sets are correct, right? On the contrary, you can also have something like, let's say, a binary logic question. A binary logic. What is a binary logic question? Your binary logic question will have truth teller, alternators, liars. Such questions are easy to attempt. These are the type of questions you would want to select at the first. So set number 1 and set number 2, please decide which two sets are you gonna attempt, and accordingly at the start of the third minute come and attempt these two sets. It would be a blunder if you start with set number 1 without looking what is there in set number 2, or for that matter what is there in set number 3. You got to look at all sets and only then decide which set are you gonna attempt and the order in which you attempt. At least two sets, remember, at least two sets, and this is very, very, very essential. First, selection of right sets. On the contrary, there might also be a scenario where all sets look unfamiliar. All sets look unfamiliar. This is especially true if your preparation is not up to the mark. Okay, all sets look unfamiliar. If that is the case, if all sets look unfamiliar, you've never done such sets before, you know what? Attempt the one which at least the topic you know well. As an example, there is a question on cubes. You have done a lot of questions on cubes and you are comfortable with cubes. Though on the day of the exam, you get a cube question which doesn't look familiar, you have not done similar sets, but the topic is familiar to you. You know what? Topic is familiar, then probably attempt that set, right? All sets look unfamiliar, but topic is familiar. Topic is familiar. Correct? Topic is familiar. Can you see how I am classifying? First case was topic, the set itself is familiar. Scenario 2 is set is unfamiliar, but the topic is familiar. That is scenario 2. Scenario 3 would be both sets and topics unfamiliar. Both sets, okay, and topic unfamiliar. Correct? You might not have done. You might not have never done such questions before. You might not have even done the topic before. So what did we do? You look at the answer options. Look at the answer options. Check if there are if any of the answer option contains, let's say, a cannot be determined, or if any of the answer options contain more than one answer option. Basically, it gives you extra data. It gives you extra data in the question, not in the set, but in the question. Now, what will happen? Logically think about it. Logically think about it. If there is a cannot be determined, there could be a scenario where there are multiple arrangements possible. Your set, your topic, both are unfamiliar. You try to do a hit and trial and solve the set on the day of the exam. But it might be that there was one more alternative, one more arrangement which you did not even bother to look at because you are not very confident in the topic. Hence, do not attempt a set, okay, at the start. I'm saying at the start, where all the answer options, or probably 75% of the answer options in the set has a cannot be determined. On the contrary, if there is no cannot be determined, but just single answer choices, like they give you 4 names, you know what? Even if you get one alternative correct, maybe there is just one alternative, and there is a very high chance that if you are able to identify that arrangement, you will get all the questions correct. So do not select sets at the start which has got a lot of cannot be determined. Out of the 4 options, one option cannot be determined. That is absolutely fine. But if you have all the sets as cannot be determined, all questions in the set, 4 questions in the set, all 4 as cannot be determined, do not attempt the set at the start. This is a point to be noted. Correct? Very important. Next is, if both the set and the topic look unfamiliar, you know what? You are going to look at extra data set. What does it mean? Sometimes you would say just by reading the paragraph and the instructions, you're not able to solve the entire caselet. but there is extra data provided in the questions. If there is extra data provided in the questions, it could be you could start with that extra data, and because you could start with the extra data, there are high chances you'll be able to solve. As an example, if the question tells you if Ravi makes exactly 2 true statements and 1 false, so you know that there are probably 3 scenarios. If there are 3 statements, right? So you can start with that particular scenario, or they give you a circular arrangement and then they tell you person K is looking towards the center of the circle and on his right is person A, right? You have that extra data, gather that data and start the set. Next, also what is important is the length of the set. The length, correct? Any set which has got, let's say, 10 pointers, 10 clues, and you got to scroll the set up and down, right? Remember, you are looking at it on a computer screen. If you're going to scroll up and down, it will be very difficult to capture the data fast. I'm not saying it's not possible to do. I'm only saying it will be difficult to capture the data fast, right? Hence, do not attempt a set which is very lengthy. Rather, pick up a set which has got only 3 or 4 liners, and hence you can at least know that if you're not able to solve within the first 5-6 minutes, you can leave the set. Contrary, what is the other possibility? A very lengthy set. Unless you read the last clue in the puzzle, you do not even know whether you'll be able to solve the set or not solve the set, right? And because of which you end up taking more time per question. So pick up sets which are small, which are short, and which has got less clues, because in that way, even if you are not able to solve the set, you know what? Within 5 minutes, you can say that, oh, I can't solve the set, I'll go to the next set. Correct? Okay. Some golden rules I have given you to select the right sets. Now, next thing would be, how much time should I devote per set? Okay. Now, what I told you, how to start. Which sets do you select to start your LRDI section in the first 15-20 minutes of your exam? Next would be, how many sets should I attempt in the LRDI section? Correct? How many sets to attempt? Very important question. How many sets to attempt? How many sets to attempt? Correct? I would go with history here. And I'll give you some data, okay? Data points. Last 7 years of data. I will share with you now. What are the last 7 years of data suggests? That in the CAT, if you can get around 45% to 50%, 45% to 50% of the net score, okay, you will end up with a 99 plus percentile. This would translate to a 99 plus percentile. So it would mean, what does it mean? It would mean if there are 20 questions, very high chance that this time there will be around 20 questions. If there are 20 questions, let's say as an example, let's say if there are 20 questions this time in your LRDI, you'd want to get around 9 to 10 correct. If not 9, I would say 9. I would say around 10. To be on a safety margin, I would say around 10 questions correct out of the 20. So whatever is the number of questions you would want to attempt and get at least 50% of them correct. That is what the last 7 years of data suggests. If you want to get 50% of the questions correct, that would mean you would want to solve around 2.5 to 3 sets. 2.5 to 3 sets. Assumption here, the difficulty level remains the same like the last 7 years. The difficulty level remains the same like the last 7 years, and there is not much change in the difficulty level. So if you want to get 99 plus, you would want to get around 10 to 10 questions correct. This also means that for some of you who are not sure about the answer, see, there can be two things. Unlike verbal, where you are not sure about your answer, no matter how good you are at verbal, you can never be sure of the answer. LRDI isn't that case. There are many a times where I have seen students getting 100% accuracy in LRDI. Why? You solve the set correctly, you get the questions correct. There are no two opinions about it. I would still recommend that if you have to get 10 correct, you end up solving around, how many attempts should you do? You should do at least around 12 to 13 attempts to be on a safer side. Attempts should be around 12, at least around 12 attempts, around 12. Why around 12? So that even if two questions go wrong, net score will be around 10 questions correct. But if you are confident that you have 100% accuracy, then you might want to attempt around 10 to 11 and get all of them correct. But again, if you are not sure about 100% accuracy, attempt around 12 to 13, and then even if 2, 3 go wrong, you have a safety margin, and then you can expect to get around 10 of them correct. Correct? Very, very, very important. Very important. So, what did we discuss so far? We have discussed two things. First, selection of sets. First, we discussed about selection of sets. Correct? Next, point number 2, we discussed number of attempts. Number of attempts. Next, what I'm going to come to is the last few minutes. I'm going to come back to the middle 10-15 minutes. But first, let's talk about the last 10 minutes of your LRDI paper. Remember, very important. Every minute will count. So last 10 minutes, what type of question should you attempt? What type of question should you attempt? Last 10 minutes. Okay. Now, last 10 minutes, to be very honest, it is very, very difficult to start a new set and get it correct and get all of it correct. Why? Because you are under tremendous pressure. Moment you see 9 minutes remaining, 8 minutes remaining, 7 minutes remaining, your brain will be under a lot of pressure, because of which it will not be able to give 100% efficient, right? It will not be 100% efficiency. So the last 10 minutes, you should be very careful and strategize accordingly. In the last 10 minutes, either solve questions which are calculation intensive, either solve questions which are calculation intensive. So any question which you think requires a lot of calculations, correct? You might want to attempt such questions in the last 10 minutes. Why? Because calculation doesn't involve the use of your brain too much. Rather, it would involve the proper usage of the calculator, or even if you are under a lot of pressure, very high chances that you will get it correct, because this is just a manual process wherein you follow a normal step of addition, subtraction, division, multiplication, and you get your questions correct. This is one way, calculation intensive. The second would be leftover individual questions. Leftover individual questions. What do I mean by leftover individual questions? As an example, in the first 15 minutes of your CAT, as an example, okay, let's give an example to understand. In the first 15 minutes of your CAT, you attempted set number 2. And there were 4 questions on it. Let's say question number 1, 2, 3, 4. You attempted 1, 2, and 3. You are sure that all of them are correct. But question number 4 was a bit calculation intensive. Hence, you decided that while solving the question in the first 10 minutes, you feel that this is a bit time consuming. This question was a bit time consuming. Hence, you would not want to attempt this question right now. You know what? Keep some space on your rough sheet. Keep some space. You don't want to do all of it once again. Keep some extra space in your rough sheet, and then go and solve the remaining questions. Last 10 minutes, come back and solve this question. Why? Because this question you have already solved. You have already solved the puzzle. It is just about calculations or probably some extra work that you need to do now, right? You've already got the answers to the remaining questions. So your confidence level is high. Your brain, even if it is not at 100% efficiency, will be able to get this last question correct. Probably you not need 10 minutes to solve this. The same thing can happen in set number 5 as well. In set number 5 also, you did 2 questions and there were probably last 2 questions remaining in set 5 also. Why? Because it is calculation intensive. So in the 10 minutes of your paper, rather than starting a new set, you know what to do. You will go back to the individual leftover questions in the sets that you have already solved and try solving them. Again, I'm repeating, last 10 minutes, the human mind is under a lot of pressure. Don't pick up something new. If you pick up something new, you get the answer, well and good. But what happens if you don't get the answer? You'd end up wasting 10 minutes of your time and hence probably 10 minutes of the paper. Correct? Don't do that. So again, 10 minutes, calculation intensive questions or leftover individual questions is what I'm going to do. How are you going to identify the individual leftover questions? Use the flag. Which flag? Use mark for review flag, right? Use mark for review flag. Mark for review, right? You have a button which will say mark for review or flag for review, right? Use that button so that you don't even have to search for these questions, and at the end you can easily come back and answer these questions. So last 10 minutes of your paper is decided. First 10-15 minutes is also decided. Set 1 and set 2, which two sets you are going to attempt. Last 10 minutes is also decided. Correct? So what did we talk about next? We talked about last 10 minutes of your paper. 10 minutes of your paper. Correct? Now comes the middle section. Now comes the middle portion, right? So the first few minutes, how do you select the sets? Which sets you are going to attempt has been decided. Last 10 minutes have been decided. Now, how much time is remaining? We still have probably around 10 minutes remaining on the day of your exam. Which time is this? We are talking about probably the 21st minute. 21st minute to the 38th minute. 21st to the 38th minute. Right? This is the time to experiment. This is actually the time to experiment. First few minutes, you have picked up sets which are familiar. Last 10 minutes, you are picking up sets which are leftover portion. But 21st to the 30th minute, try to search for some doable sets. For some doable sets. For some doable questions. Doable. Okay, when I say doable questions, it could be something which you have not done before. Remember, 100% of the paper will not be what you have studied. There will always be a surprise element. This is the only 10 minutes of the paper where you think, okay, on the spot. You got to think on the spot. You got to try out multiple alternatives and check if you can get the answer. If you are able to get the answer, nothing like that. You be super happy. But even if you are not able to get the answer, don't worry. This is not your foray, right? This is not your foray. This is something you have not done, but you are only experimenting. So you already have the safeties in place. The first 20 minutes, you have done something. 2 sets is your target. And the last 10 minutes is your target, wherein you try to come back to individual sets where either the calculations were high or probably you forgot a concept and you now wish to come back and try it once again. The only min time where you will experiment is the 21st to 30th minute, where you might or might not get an answer, but that is absolutely fine, because at the end of the day, this is something that you have not studied. This is something that you have not studied. So don't bother about that you have not got it. Rather than trying to solve entire set, look for questions. Probably the third question in the set is very doable. You know what? As an example, let me give you an example. Example, games and tournaments set. Games and tournaments. Many a times, games and tournaments questions are very difficult, very difficult, and students find it difficult to do. But there could be one question in this games and tournament set where the question will ask you how many games were played in total. How many games were played in total? That could probably be the last question to the set. Can you solve this question? I think it is a very easy question. If I tell you there is a double robin, or if every team in an IPL plays every other team exactly once, how many matches were played? I think you can easily find it, right? So that one question or two questions out of the several questions, you don't have to try to solve the entire set, not even required, because it's tough. But can you pick up that one or two questions which are probably sitters and which doesn't require you to solve the entire puzzle? Just by taking a partial data, you can calculate that. And because you are able to calculate, even if you are able to do two such questions correct, you end up getting +6. You end up getting plus. Correct? So strategy is all that matters on the day of your exam. Make sure you have these strategies in place. I would also talk about one more thing. One more thing now. This is whatever I talked about now, right, was regarding on the day of the exam, regarding the day of the exam. Can I also give you some tips for days prior to your exam? Days prior to exam. Now, on the days prior to exam, we are considering just only about, let's say, 10 days remaining, hardly 10 days or less than 10 days remaining now. What do you need to focus on when what do you need to study? I think in this last 10 days, okay, focus more on traditional DI and LR sets. Traditional LRDI sets. LR and DI sets. Correct? LR and DI sets. What is traditional LR and DI? Traditional LR and DI could be a Venn diagram, could be a cube, could be a percentage change graph, right? Focus on such thing. Could be a comparison set, could be a distribution set, circular arrangement, linear arrangement, right? Such questions. Do not, I would repeat, do not focus on puzzles. Do not focus on miscellaneous puzzles. Do not focus on miscellaneous puzzles anymore now. Anymore now. Miscellaneous puzzles. Why do I say so? Why do I say so? Think about it. There is a logic behind everything I tell you, right? Think about it. Today, if you have practiced the concepts of cubes, you know what? On the day of the exam, even if you don't get exactly the same set on cube which you practiced today, but you might get a similar set or you might get another set on cube where the concepts will be same as what you learned today, right? So basically, concepts can be reproduced. Concepts can be applied across multiple sets. On the contrary, if you have a miscellaneous puzzle, as an example, let's say there was an ATM and many people are trying to trying to unlock the ATM. They're trying different combinations of PIN. There was a similar set in one of the previous CAT papers. Such sets are miscellaneous puzzles. Why? The learning that you get out of the set is limited to that particular set itself. Such learning should have been acquired over the past 6-7 months. 10 days is not a good time to acquire learning for such miscellaneous set. These 10 days rather focus on things where probably there are concept driven, and because there are concept driven, these concepts can be applied across multiple sets. As an example, again, I will give you binary logic. If you study the concepts of binary logic, you understand who is a truth teller, who is a liar. No matter whatever the set on the day of the exam, if the set comes from this topic, you are going to be able to reproduce and reapply the concepts you have learned today. Doesn't hold true for a puzzle whose learning is limited to that particular set. Also, in this last 10 days, focus only on easy and moderate sets. Focus only on easy and moderate sets. Easy and moderate. Do not do any difficult sets now. Why? Why? Because at the end of the day, if you solve a difficult set, 1 hour, you might end up solving just one set. On the contrary, you solve an easy set, good part is 1 hour, you would end up solving 3 sets. That's what you need. More the sets, the merrier it becomes. The more difficult sets you pick up, the less the number of sets you can do per day, and also the probability of getting exactly the same difficult set is very low. Even if you happen to get the same difficult set, could you solve the set in less than 12 minutes in the exam is another question you need to answer. Yes, you go to the box, you get a set, and you know what? The set is so difficult that you end up taking 20 minutes. Think about it. Even if you get the same set, let's say on the day of the exam, you are going to leave the set. Why? It's taking 20 minutes. So there is no point spending time on difficult sets with just 10 days prior to your exam. Let's focus on the easy and the moderate sets. And as I said, focus on the traditional LR and DI sets, specifically those which are concept driven and where need concepts are required, okay, and reproduced. They can be reapplied across multiple sets. Correct? So someone is asking me, sir, getting 35 plus marks in DILR consistently. That's a very good number, right? 35 plus would mean around you are getting around 12 questions correct. If you're getting around 12 questions correct, even on the day of the exam, you can expect a 99 plus percentile. So someone is asking, the question I see you on YouTube is, do we get a highlighters or markers on screen? You will not get highlighters, right? Rather, you will get a button which will say a question is there, a button is there, which will say mark for review. Mark for review. So if you mark a question for review, that question will be highlighted in a different color. And at any point of time, you see that color, you realize that this is a question you have marked it. Why did you mark it? Probably you would want to go back to this question when time permits. When time permits. Remember, use the mark for review button judiciously. If you mark every question for review, let's say you want to mark every question for review, problem is you not have the time. So use this button judiciously. You would only want to review those questions which probably you would want to attempt, right? If you mark all of them for review, there's no point. You anyway will not have time to review. So use this button very, very, very judicious. I think that is it. I think that is it. I gave you a lot of tips today, and now I'll make a few announcements. First thing is the iconic subscription. For those of you who are interested, please make sure that you can subscribe and remember to use the code Parikshit Live for any discount that you want at any point of time. And yeah, the 10 days countdown series to CAT 2021 starts soon on Unacademy. If you are a 2022 preparation aspirant, we have everything for you. Remember to use the code Parikshit Live because that is the code that is going to give you maximum discounts and free mentorship from my side when you enroll. And the mega combat is scheduled for this Sunday. Do enroll for free. And anytime you have doubts, make use of the Ask a Doubt feature on Unacademy. That is it for today. I hope you enjoyed the session and I'm going to see you in my next session. Till then, goodbye and stay safe. Bye.